Good morning, Taylor Michael Burk. Welcome on VH Berries.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Congratulations for In the Land of Dreams. You are one of the person having the pen, and this is a massive success.
Yeah, it's very grateful to be part of that team and to document the Musqueca Chica, this remote region in northern BC. It was an all-time crew, and I was happy to be there to document some photos and kind of capture what was going on, as well as some behind the scenes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about this project? Because from what I've seen, you were covering a park in northern Colombia.
Yeah, in northern British Columbia, there's this huge, vast wilderness. It's like 3 times the size of Ireland or something like that. Like, it's massive, and it's a mix of provincial parks as well as just kind of crown land. And it's kind of this weird divide that there's not many places like that where industry and park and conservation all coexist within one area. So it's basically like a handshake agreement within this perimeter where all these things can kind of coexist. And there's some people, Wayne Sawchuk, one of them, Ryan Dickey, those are the 2 main characters, and they're just kind of exploring their connections to that land. Ryan from a First Nations perspective, and Wayne from someone who, has grown up in that area and knows it like the back of his hand and operates tours in there via horseback. So it's basically just kind of talking their story to that land and how they can ultimately provide more protection for it, because not many people know it exists, and right now it's all done on that handshake agreement. So there's not a ton of land in there that's fully protected. So that's basically the goal, it's just such a unique area, and it's just so incredible and just untouched, no roads, no nothing, just so far away from everything. A lot of wildlife. It's like they call it the Serengeti of the North, just because of its abundance of wildlife. So something like that, there's just not much of that left. And so the whole goal is to kind of keep that protected.
And as a photographer, Taylor, your role was to sharp the focus on the landscapes and also on all the photography sides.
Yeah, basically, I got invited by Ronan, a good friend of mine now. I didn't know anyone going into it. There was a group of, I believe there was like 8 of us or something like that. And most of them knew each other, but we all kind of came really close by the end of it. And my goal was there just to kind of help with the promotion of it by documenting what's going on, the landscapes, the wildlife, the crew, basically just kind of capture that overall essence to help provide some imagery for the release, which is going to be pretty soon here. I believe in the next month or so, October, September, on CBC Gem.
And this also includes taking some helicopters and plane to get in this very far region of Canada.
Yeah, so it's crazy. So we left from Vancouver, and you could be in LA faster than you can be to where we need to get to start to fly into this place. So it's way up there. BC, British Columbia is huge. It's a massive province, and until you've driven it, you don't really understand the scale of how big it is. So we had to drive, I think it was like 20 something hours north to Northern Rockies Lodge and Muncho Lake. From there, we took about an hour float plane to get to Wayne's base camp. And that's where we kind of set up base camp for the whole shoot as well. And it's crazy because it takes them, I believe, at least a month from the highway, the Alaska highway, to get to Wayne's camp in the Musqueca Chica. So, by horseback, it takes them, about a month, or you can take a 1-hour bush flight. And so obviously, because of the time that we had, the time constraints and everything, we took the float plane in, which was incredibly scenic. And, it's out there. You're way, way out there.
And Taylor Burk, you mean that crossing a certain point, you were helped by some locals, for example, to ride some horses to get to the place you need to be, and also by setting a camp and eating marshmallow on the fires.
Yeah, I mean, there's so Wayne Sawchuk is the operator of the outfitter for the horseback tours, And then he has Alex and Michelle that work with him. They're the farriers, and they are just incredible people, the friendliest, most down to earth, helpful, knowledgeable people that you'll meet. And so they were there to kind of help out with everything and make sure, you know, a lot of us don't have that experience riding horses or anything like that. And so they were making sure everything's good. We had everything we needed. Everything for the production went well and smoothly. They were cooking for us, everything. They were just all-time crew. And when you're out there, you need people who know that area like the back of their hand, and they know, you know, how to get around and to kind of navigate that landscape, because there's basically just trails that Wayne has broken in over time, as well as some other people that, you know, kind of get back there for trapping and whatnot. So it's it definitely required that local knowledge. So we're grateful to have all three of them.
And part of this knowledge, as you just said, Taylor Burke, there is the food, because during a long expedition that can take months, you have to eat, obviously.
Of course. And Michelle was our cook, as well as, I can't remember her name, I'm mind blanking right now, but they hired her out to kind of help be the chef for that. And we were eating such good food, like everything was cooked over the fire. Normally when I'm going backpacking, going on these kind of trips myself, I'm usually getting those like dehydrated meals that don't typically taste that good. I mean, there's some brands that are really incredible, but for the most time, I'm usually just kind of grab and go what's quick and easy, and not necessarily focusing on taste first, which I mean, probably would be nice too, but I like to keep things light and minimal. So to have the chef there on these kind of expeditions is awesome. Very, very nice luxury to have for sure. And they were making, I'm trying to think what we had. But like, it was like homemade bread, like garlic bread, lots of good pasta, steaks, like all these like really nice meals that they cooked better meals out in the backcountry than I would cook for myself at home, basically.
At the beginning, Taylor Burke, I thought that you had the same food as astronaut in the space, you know, because it has to be storable in the very little bags.
Yeah, well, typically, yeah, you have those like dehydrated bags that, you know, they don't expire for years and years, and you can kind of hang on to them. You just put boiling water in it. But for them out there, because we came in by float plane, we were able to bring a lot of fresh ingredients and stuff like that, and they have coolers and all the storage. But what's crazy about there is typically with wildlife, you want to make sure all of that, your food and all your snacks, everything's stowed away, which they do for the most part. But up there, wildlife, it's true wildlife, and they're not used to humans, and they're really scared, and like they don't even come to the camp at all. So they've never had any issues with bears or anything ransacking the camp. They have all the food and condiments, everything just wide open on this big shelf, and they've never had any issues. So just kind of goes to show how wild that place is, or just, yeah, untouched, I guess, in a way that the wildlife doesn't even affect you, or come eat your food. So that was a big shock to me, how they keep that all open like that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the things they have are canned or stuff that's non-perishable.
This is really inspiring, because for this feature film, In the Land of Dreamers, there is a team of around 13 people, including Ryan Dickies and Wayne Chuck, and there are 3 topics and 3 major issues that are at stake. So there is the species that are in danger, the water, and also the culture and heritage.
Totally. Yeah, Ryan Dickey and Wayne Sawchuk, they're the 2 main characters of the film, the documentary, and basically we're kind of getting both of their perspectives on that area. And like you're saying, those 3 things, the culture, the water, the species, all that is typically, I mean, it's at risk because it's not all protected. So as I said before, it's like a handshake deal that someone could just come and say, you know what, we want to mine this, we want to bring industry in here, and then all of that's at risk, which would be super sad, because like that is just such an that's an area that is untouched, and we don't have much of that left. And so in this film, you learn about that area and why it's so important, especially to Ryan and Wayne, and what they're trying to protect. And it was a huge learning experience for myself. I grew up in a city, I kind of live in a city. Right now I'm in a small town, but there's not much, I didn't grow up in that perspective of that vast wilderness. And that's something I've kind of learned about later on in life. So learning from them and seeing how special that place is to them and what it means to them was really inspiring. And to see what kind of work they're doing to protect these places, it was a really cool introduction to them and their story and their land in that aspect.
Taylor Burk, obviously, both of us, we are right now in Canada. So what lessons should we take from your experiences in this part of the world?
I mean, so I'm in Gibsons right now, which is just outside of Vancouver, about an hour away. And up in there in the Muskwekachika up north, that's like a 20-hour drive. It's a very different lifestyle. It's a very, very different lifestyle. And out there, a lot of these people are, there's a lot of people living out in the bush and kind of remote lifestyle and whatnot. And it's very different than what we're used to here. It's like we're just always take. We don't see a lot of what's going on. We're just kind of living in this city, this environment. And up there, you just kind of, your eyes are open up to like, just how things are done up there, and it's a lot different than the city, and it's something that's hard to explain. You just kind of have to go see, and just being a part of that northern culture and stuff like that, it just really opens up your mind to how different it is. And I guess it's just more of a rougher way of living, not in a bad way at all, but just you're out there. You don't have access to a lot of things that we do here that's just so convenient and easy. You have to really work for it up there. So that's a big thing that kind of I took away from that, is like just how easy we have it in cities and places like this down in southern BC, opposed to the north, where it's a lot harder. It's a different way of life, and it's not for everybody, and it really builds a lot of character, I think.
You just mentioned that you had limited access to certain stuff, but you have the Wi-Fi, which is the most important thing.
Well, up there we didn't have, you're out of service. A good chunk of that Alaska highway, you're out of service, and you got Fort Nelson and Fort St. John. Those are the two kind of bigger towns and cities, and you have all the basic necessities and stuff like that. But once you're past that, you're out of service. So you need satellite phones, you need the inReaches, any of those GPS devices to be able to communicate. So working remotely is something, and off the grid is something that I've been kind of used to over the years, working with my photography out in the backcountry and stuff like that. So I've adapted to that, just making sure I have everything I need, which is one of the reasons why I created an app called Packup with some friends, because preparedness is key in those moments when you don't have easy access. And these drives, like from where we started kind of in Fort Nelson, where Ryan lives, to where we flew from, it's a few hours of driving, and there's no service there. And if you forget something, you're hooped. So being prepared is the ultimate key, and not having service is one of those cruxes that kind of, you have to really make sure you know what you're getting into. Be prepared for everything.
And to help people to get prepared, you create this app called Packup. Mm-hmm. So this is basically a list that people can follow to take the most important items when traveling, to plan, collaborate, and explore. And to do this, you have a story, a mission, and a vision.
For sure, yeah. So Packup was, I guess, a pandemic project. It was April 2020. Work was dried up. Everything shut down. The whole world was shut down. We're all stuck at home. And I'm one of those people who can't sit still. I have to be doing something and constantly kind of, being busy. And so with all the photography stuff that slowed down and being at home, me and my good friend Matt Carson, we decided we wanted to create some sort of app, something to help people. And we came up with, after a lot of different ideas, we came up with the idea of a packing list app. something for outdoor adventures. And after a lot of fine tuning, it's been, over almost a year and a half now. We met Tony Mamo, who is a very talented designer, product designer, engineer. He does all the back end stuff. And he has basically brought our vision to life, and he's created the most incredible thing. We're so stoked because it was just this idea that we had one day sitting in our living rooms, and now it's an actual app that people can use. And basically the gist of it is you plug in using our trip generator what activities you're doing, where you're staying, how you're getting there, any specialty items, whether you have kids or dogs or photography, you want to bring out your camera gear, or you want to go internationally and travel. You plug that all in, and it gives you a list, a generated list with everything that you should have, all the basic items, all the safety items, all the must-haves. And then you can go in then and customize it. So you can add things, you can delete things. You can totally fine-tune your gear closet to fit that. So no matter where you're going, what you're doing, anything like that, you have a list ready to go that's super simple to use. And I'm not just saying this because I own it, but it's come in handy so many times. There's been so many times I'm going on trip and I totally would have forgot something. You'd think after all the trips and traveling and stuff, I'd have packing down, but I hate packing and it's such a tedious task. So for me, having all that ready to go, there's definitely been times where I would have forgot something super important. And so having that all there ready and easy to use it's a game changer. So our goal with it and our vision is basically to help people stay prepared. There's been more search and rescue incidents and calls than ever. There's a lot more people getting into the outdoors, with the pandemic and all this stuff. It's been people have been stuck inside. So people are excited to get outside and try new things. So making sure that people are prepared, at the bare minimum, at least, to know what they're getting into, and making sure that, hopefully we can avoid less, these rescue calls and, get people out there in an organized and prepared way.
Mac Carson and Tony Mamo were your two partners.
So Matt Carson, Tony Mamo, really good guys. Grateful to be working with them. Mac I knew from high school. I wasn't very outdoorsy. I was a city boy, going out clubbing and partying all the time. Wasn't doing hiking or camping very much. And so it wasn't until I traveled, I went to New Zealand and Australia for a year. And I got introduced from my buddy Jeff and some other friends into the outdoors, into backpacking, into hiking, into, all this stuff that I never did before. And I fell in love with it. I became really into it, long story short. And when I went back home, I was looking for people to get out with and go do all these hiking trips and camping trips with. And I remember Mac was always into that kind of stuff and always out hiking in the mountains. So I hit him up on Facebook, and we basically just kind of became closer friends through that, just getting out on different trips. And then he's a really smart business guy. He knows what he's doing in finance and all that kind of stuff. And we decided it'd be good to kind of put our skill sets together and create something like some sort of business and some sort of app. And like I was saying before, we wanted something that would help people. And so Packup is basically the idea that we came up with, that we're trialing out, and there's been a lot of success with it. A lot of people are really interested in it, and we just kind of been digging deeper and deeper and learning and testing. And through all that initial kind of interest and success, we've just been developing and fine tuning it. And that's where we met Tony, was through all these surveys and questionnaires that we did, just trying to understand what people wanted. We learned, that way just by asking. And Tony just kind of reached out. He's like, hey, I'm a developer. I do all the back end stuff. I really love what you guys are doing, and I'd love to get involved in one way or another and help out. And long story short, he was a fit, really good guy. And he's basically kind of helped bring our vision with Packup to life and create. So now we have an actual app that you can use. It's not in the app stores or anything like that. You have to go to the website, to download it onto your phone, but super simple to use. You can create an account, save it to your phone, and then use it as a working app. It's just getpackup.com is the website.
And Taylor Burke, what I really like about this app is that this is a product and service that you're using yourself. And it all starts by having these ideas to solve a problem when you were hiking in the Wapta ice field.
Yeah, I mean, so Mac and I did this big traverse with some friends, Hamish and Reed, and just when you're planning for those kind of big multi-day trips where you have to be self-reliant and things like that, the packing process can be really tricky, and especially when you're packing with multiple people, that whole framework can be really difficult, and things can get overpacked, and so you might have a heavier bag than you need to, or they can get underpacked and you might be really unprepared and not have what you need. So it was like trips like that kind of inspired us to, there's got to be to think about a simpler way to go about these. You have blogs, you have other resources, but you're going to spend a lot of time digging around, trying to find this and that and this and that with the pack. So there was nothing that was all in one place. So that was kind of the idea behind Packup, was these long, multi-day trips with multiple people where it's a little tricky to organize and kind of collaborate on making sure everybody has what they need. So you're not stuck figuring it out when you're already out there. So some of the features that we want to incorporate are, a shared packing list where you can pack with your own list, but also a shared list where you can see, say me and you were going on a trip, I would invite you to my packing list, and then you would also have your own, but we would have a shared section where you say, okay, I'll bring the tent, you bring the stove, and that's all sorted out before you even leave.
The first item on every list of every photographer is the camera.
Of course, yeah. And batteries, for sure. Batteries are important.
Tell me, Taylor Burke, about your early days and your beginnings, because I feel that you are seeing photography as a hobby and having fun every single day.
Yeah, I mean, so I was never grew up around cameras or like photography or anything like that. I didn't really know any photographers. It was just something that kind of happened because of Instagram, strangely enough. It wasn't until I had a place to share photos that I knew I wanted to take photos. When I think about it back in the day, like back in my head, someone would say, oh, like, do you mind taking a photo of us? Like you're out somewhere touristy or something like that. I always kind of, in my head, would always try and frame it up to make sure it was a really nice photo. And I never really thought much about it until I started kind of diving deeper into photography, that I really enjoyed, framing compositions and creating compositions and making things look really nice and try to do justice to something. So Instagram's kind of where that came in. I was against social media. I didn't want any of that kind of stuff. I deleted Facebook, and Instagram just came out, and a friend was telling me about it. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And it's like, my intention with this app is to inspire people, my friends, anyone who's paying attention, to like get outside and enjoy nature and just try something new. And because for me at the time, it was just hiking and getting outside, and it changed my life completely. So I want to do that as well. And Instagram and my camera was kind of that ticket to getting out there.
If I understood correctly, Taylor Burke, you mean that your photography career started when a couple of tourists asked you to photograph them with their phone?
Not quite. I think it more so just like that kind of, I think I've always kind of had that vision, or like understood composition or something like that earlier on. So it wasn't until a friend told me about Instagram and I had my cracked iPod Touch to take photos, that's kind of how it started. But I wish that'd be funny. I mean, I guess kind of a way, just like it's all linked together, but yeah.
And from this point, you've made a very long journey that led you to be going to launch a workshop in photography coming very soon to help photographers to take how inspiring photographs.
Yeah, I'm excited that to be launching a workshop with Wildest. It's my first ever online workshop. basically wanted to create something that I wish that I had when I was starting out. That was my whole goal intention with it. So for anyone who, maybe they just bought a camera, they want to get into it and want to start taking better photos in the outdoors, this is that workshop for them. That was the goal, is to create a tool that people can, a programming tool that people can learn and get into it a lot quicker and kind of understand the gist of it and my mindset in it. I want to make it something that would be beneficial to everybody. So I dive into, the basics, as well as kind of my start with the business side of things. I also dive into just compositions and navigating the outdoors and the ethics and social media, all that kind of stuff. So I want to make it, as versatile, well-rounded, and jam-packed full of important stuff and worthwhile to make you want to, dive into it and purchase the course, because it's a competitive market and there's so many incredible photographers that you can learn from. And just, I don't think that you should always kind of hone in on one person or one resource. I think it's important to dive in and learn from as many different people as you can. And you can always learn something no matter what stage you're at. You have to constantly always be learning. It's an ever-changing kind of landscape and world, and you have to learn from as much as you can and as many people as you can. And collaboration is a big part of that. And when I was starting out, I learned just from being out with other photographers. And so now with these online workshops, it's like you can almost kind of be there and pick things up and digest things and learn as you go.
Of course, there is a diversity in the content that you can share. For example, some videos of coaching, some screen sharing when you are doing some editings, and also a direct link to download your app.
For sure. Yeah, there's what we did with this was kind of cool, was we made it so that you could see what was happening in my camera screen as it was happening. So I'd be out taking photos, explaining what's going on, and you can actually see my settings and my screen to kind of visualize what's happening, as well as there'll be documents and PDF folders and all that kind of stuff that people can download to get right into it and learn from at their own pace. That's the beauty of online workshops, is you're not constrained to a set day or time. You can just learn as you go.
Do you have other projects in mind that you would love to develop in the future next to this 3 major events that we talked about?
Right now, I'm kind of processing moving to Victoria, BC, to Vancouver Island from Gibson. So right now I'm in the process of packing and moving, and I'm excited to kind of just dive into Vancouver Island and that lifestyle and that landscape. And it's such a incredible place. It's so diverse. It's so, I don't even know the word for it. It's incredible. You got big glaciated peaks. You have rugged, raw West Coast, the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. I don't know. There's nothing like it. I've heard people kind of call it like a mini New Zealand. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into that and just kind of capture that lifestyle and see what's going on there. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of topics that I would like to learn more about and kind of, just capture that. So right now my mind is just kind of focused on moving and getting settled in there, because it's a lot more work than I thought it would be. But my girlfriend got into law school. She's going to Indigenous law at UVic. So that kind of prompted the move. So I'm excited to kind of learn from her as well what's going on in her studies and see if there's ways that we can collaborate on different things.
Through the years and decades, Taylor Michael Burk is getting closer to the nature.
Yeah, basically just as I get older and older, just kind of learning more and more and pushing myself and getting out there. And, it's baby steps, going from getting into the camping and car camping and hiking and then backpacking and then climbing and mountaineering. It's just kind of all progressing.
I can totally see yourself having a small field with your own ships.
Oh man. Like a ship? A field?
Absolutely.
The
The
sheep.
sheep,
Yeah.
the animals.
I would love to have a little farm. That would be the dream. A little cabin, with some animals and a little garden. That would be amazing.
Taylor Burke, thank you so much for your time and wishing you the best.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here. This has been a really cool opportunity to share about some of these projects and what's been going on. So thank you.